There are words that are not just speech, but portraits. Portraits of a mind not ready to love, only to possess. And in a world where emotions can be weapons, a man needs more than love. He needs the wisdom to know when to walk away. A wise man is never destroyed by rejection, only by self-deception. The self-deception that says, I can change her. But there are signs, not for you to decode, but to step back and walk away. Part 1. I don't need a man. The price of denial. There is a phrase once praised as a symbol of feminism. I don't need a man to be happy. It sounds like strength. It sounds like freedom. But if you dig beneath the surface, you'll see something else. It's not strength. It's an unhealed scar. When a woman says, I don't need a man, she's declaring a world where you have no place. No place for leadership, for protection, for companionship, for the silent sacrifices of a good man. And most terrifying of all, no place for respect. Because if you're not needed, you're not cherished either. Independence or isolation? We live in a time where the idea of independence is being distorted. People confuse the ability to live alone with the denial of others' roles. A woman who can drive herself, pay her own bills, raise a child on her own, that's admirable. But when she says, I don't need anyone, it's no longer independence, it's intentional isolation. A wall built from hurt, disappointment, betrayal. And you, the man standing before her, are no longer a person, but a potential threat to the shell she's trying to protect. The truth about a man's value: a mature man doesn't need to be worshipped. He doesn't need to be served. But he does need his role to be respected. When a woman declares that men are unnecessary, she doesn't just strip the man in front of her of his value. She unconsciously strips herself of the chance to feel lasting happiness in a healthy relationship. Because happiness, in the end, is the result of mutual giving and receiving. It's the recognition that I can do it alone, but I choose to do it together. You don't need to be with someone so they can survive, but you should be with someone so both can truly live. The reverse question: what if a man said the same thing? Imagine if a man said, I don't need women. What would society call him? Arrogant? Misogynist? Emotionally damaged? All of the above would be true. So why, when a woman says the same thing, do we applaud it as enlightenment? The statement, I don't need a man, is not a declaration of freedom. It is a denial of human connection. And that denial, if not faced, will slowly erode any chance of building true love. A word for men: if you meet a woman who constantly repeats, I don't need a man, take a step back, not because you're weak, but because you're strong enough not to prove yourself to someone who denies your very presence. Don't try to change her. Don't fall into the trap of proving I'm the exception. Because the truth is, if she doesn't see you, you can't make her see your true worth. Choose the woman who doesn't need you to survive, but wants you to walk beside her. The one who, when you come close, doesn't build walls, but opens her heart. That's the one worthy of your time, your energy, and your heart. Part 2. My ex was terrible. When the past becomes a trap for the future. There is a quiet paradox in love. People want to be trusted. Yet they start relationships with stories that sow doubt. Not doubt about themselves, but about others. The line, my ex was terrible, seems harmless. It sounds like sharing, like opening up, like seeking sympathy. But if you are the man listening, listen more closely. Because sometimes it's not just a story of the past, but a mirror reflecting the mindset you're about to become the next victim of. Not everyone who tells a story of pain is a real victim. When a woman constantly talks about her ex as a monster, a manipulator, a violent man, two possibilities arise. One, she was truly hurt. Two, she has never learned to take responsibility for her own choices. Both are tragic. But only one is ready to rebuild. The other is just looking for a stand-in to play a role in the same old script. where she remains the star. The philosophy of blame. A truly mature person never says, "It was all their fault," because they know. If I chose someone toxic, then the first thing that needs changing is my perception. When a woman talks only about the faults of her ex and never mentions a lesson learned, never shows self-reflection, then remember this: lessons not learned will be repeated. Victim or manipulator. In every broken relationship there is pain. But the real question is, does she carry that pain to heal or to trade for pity? A woman who carries unhealed wounds humbly stays silent. She doesn't use them to manipulate you, doesn't compare you to her ex, doesn't use the past to control the present. She says, "I made a mistake choosing him, but I'm learning how to trust again." That's a sign of a soul ready to rebuild. On the other hand, if you hear lines like, "You're just like my ex. I can't trust men anymore. I gave him everything, and he betrayed me," then remember, if she's always the victim, you'll always be the next villain. Love is not redemption for another man's sins. You didn't enter her life to carry the weight left behind by another man. You're not a moral upgrade of her ex. You're not here to heal someone unless they are ready to walk the healing path too. And never lose your identity just to avoid being labeled just like him. Because in doing so, you'll lose the best parts of yourself. Your honesty, your strength, and your integrity, unshaken by someone else's ghost. A word for the awake man. Next time you hear, "My ex was a terrible guy," gently ask her, "So what did you learn from that relationship?" If she answers with humility, with a soft smile, with eyes that no longer burn with bitterness, you might be looking at a woman who has grown. But if her answer is a storm still raging, a list of blame, a story where she's the eternal victim and all men are guilty, then you're not the partner she needs. You're just the next actor in a recurring play. And when you realize that, do what strong men always know how to do. Walk away, quietly and without regret. Part 3. I need a man who can handle me. When love becomes an endurance test. There are some phrases that sound like playful challenges in love. I need a man strong enough to handle me. But if we pause for a moment and look beyond the humorous surface, we'll see something dangerous. A distorted definition of love, where the man is no longer a companion, but a chosen victim. I need someone who can handle me is not a call for love, but a veiled declaration of war. I won't change. You must adapt. I'll make things difficult, and you must endure. Love is not a survival camp when someone proudly says, "I'm difficult, I'm complicated, whoever loves me must deal with me." What they're really saying is, I hold no responsibility for other people's emotions. I'll rock the boat, and you have to fix it. But true love is not a place to test others through pain, nor a stage to showcase personal instability with no intention to heal. A relationship should not be a survival game, where those who last the longest are rewarded with affection. A mature woman doesn't need someone to endure her. She needs someone to grow and regulate with. The fallacy of stubborn personality. That's just who I am. If you love me, you'll have to accept it. I'm blunt, I have a temper. Can you handle that? At first glance, it sounds honest. But honesty without accountability is not a virtue. It's an excuse for emotional indiscipline. Someone who truly knows she's moody, unsteady, or difficult will seek to improve, not present it as a contract you must sign. Ask yourself, why should anyone endure you when they can simply choose someone they enjoy living with? Reverse the roles. Imagine a man saying, "I'm hot-tempered, jealous, rude, but I need a woman who can put up with me." What would happen? Society would call him toxic, misogynistic, a walking red flag. So why, when some women say the same thing, are they seen as strong, hard to win, empowered? Double standards don't make love more beautiful. They only distort how we allow ourselves to act poorly while demanding unconditional tolerance from others. A message to the clear-minded man: a good man is not afraid of difficulty, but he must know the difference between challenges to overcome together and chaos designed to test loyalty. You were not born to endure someone. You don't have to pass a test disguised as fiery love. If a woman truly loves you, she'll seek peace, not test you with small daily cuts. If she keeps you in a constant state of bracing yourself, silently enduring just to keep the peace, that's no longer love. It's emotional captivity. Conclusion: love should not be endured. It should be built. A healthy relationship is not about who can tolerate whom. It's about two people learning to adjust for one another. So the next time someone says, "I need a man who can handle me," just smile and ask, "So, when do you plan to grow into someone who doesn't need to be endured?" If she falls silent, you've got your answer. Part 4. You're weak for thinking that way. When setting boundaries gets labeled as weakness, there's a dangerous tactic many don't recognize immediately: emotional manipulation disguised in soft, reasonable-sounding words. A man who dares to draw boundaries, who says he's uncomfortable or unwilling to accept something, is often attacked with familiar phrases. "You're too sensitive." "Are you jealous?" "Why are you so weak?" And just like that, from someone trying to communicate, you become the one at fault. Not because you're wrong, but because you dared to speak. When gaslighting comes wrapped in logic, gaslighting, psychological manipulation through words, doesn't need to be loud or aggressive. It can be smooth, gentle, and sound totally reasonable. For example, you say, "I don't like it when you post overly sexy photos online." The reply might be, "Oh, so now you want to control me. You're so insecure." But you're not insecure. You're just expressing a boundary. And suddenly, you start doubting yourself. Maybe I'm being weak. Maybe I'm being controlling. No, you're being pulled away from your own instincts. And that's the perfect setup for an imbalanced relationship. When natural reactions are mislabeled as flaws, there's a truth that needs to be stated clearly. Setting boundaries is not weakness. It's a sign of self-respect. Expressing feelings is not oversensitivity. It's a sign of emotional connection. A mature woman will listen when you say, "I don't feel good when you do this," and respond with kindness. "Thank you for telling me. Let's talk about it." But someone not ready to love will smirk, attack, and make you feel like you're asking too much, when all you're really asking for is respect. The trap of the real man myth society pushes a high-pressure definition of masculinity. Don't be jealous, don't be sad, don't get hurt. And manipulators only need to touch that nerve. You're acting like a child. You care about such petty things. Are you a man or a housewife? Those words don't just hurt. They strip you of your right to be human. You're not allowed to be sad, not allowed to be disappointed, not allowed to say no. You're only allowed to be silent and call it maturity. Reflection. Where's the line between confidence and control? A truly confident woman doesn't need to insult you to win. She knows that if love is to win, both must win. But if someone constantly makes you feel less of a man, every time you raise a concern, that's not someone who loves you. That's someone trying to rebuild control on your back. Ask yourself, am I being blamed for speaking up? Do I feel like I need permission to have emotions? Am I being led into the too sensitive role instead of being heard? If the answer is yes, stop, breathe, take a step back, and see clearly where this relationship is leading you. A message to the awake man: remember, you have the right to ask questions. You have the right to disagree. You have the right to say, I don't like that. A strong man is not one who never feels, but one who refuses to let others twist his feelings into a weakness. If you have to stay silent to be loved, it's not love. If your boundaries are mocked, that's not someone worth staying for. And if you've ever heard, you're weak for thinking that way, just smile and say, no, I'm just strong enough to stop staying silent. Part 5. A lot of other men want me. When love turns into a game of replacement. There is a type of woman who never stays content with what she has, not because she lacks, but because she needs more in order to feel valuable. And one of the most common phrases to express that is, a lot of other men are chasing me. At first you might think, there's nothing wrong with being admired. True. But when that statement is used to apply pressure, provoke jealousy, or assert dominance in a relationship, it's no longer harmless. It becomes a psychological weapon, a simple statement with a ruthless message. When a woman says, I have plenty of guys chasing after me, what she really wants to know is, do you feel insecure? What are you going to do to keep me? And if you respond in the way she expects, showing jealousy, fear of loss, or trying to upgrade yourself to compete with those imaginary rivals, you've fallen into the trap. From that moment on, you're no longer a lover. You're a contestant trying to hold your spot in an unnamed competition. Real love doesn't require competition. Love isn't about beating out others. Love is about a connection that can't be copied by the number of DMs or social media likes. A woman who truly loves you will make you feel irreplaceable, not easily replaced. She doesn't need to prove that others want her, because a truly mature person knows that value isn't measured by how many chase her, but by how she holds on to the one who deserves her. The psychology of craving validation. A woman who constantly brings up how sought after she isn't seeking love. She's seeking the feeling of being desired. She doesn't want a partner, she wants an audience. And the danger is, no matter how much you love her, it will never be enough. Because the emptiness inside her doesn't come from a lack of love, but from a lack of a clear sense of self-worth. You can't fill that void with loyalty, because she's not looking for someone to stay. She's looking for someone to reflect her worth, temporarily. Jealousy doesn't prove love. It confirms control. People often mistake jealousy for deep affection. But in truth, jealousy can be triggered with simple tactics, like name-dropping third parties or making ambiguous comments such as, someone else asked me out. I still get messages every day. I turn down others just because I'm dating you. And if you respond with fear or insecurity, in her eyes, you've already been controlled. But true love should never be a game of mutual control. It should be a space where both feel safe without threats of leaving. A message to the clear-minded man. Next time you hear the words, you know, a lot of men want me, look her in the eye and gently smile. Good. Then you should choose someone who doesn't need to hear you say that. Because you're not here to win her from someone else. You're here to build something that doesn't require comparisons. If she constantly needs to prove there are others waiting, step back and let those others keep waiting. Because a woman who truly loves you will make you feel like a priority, not one of many options. Part 6. A real man should. When masculinity becomes a remote control device, there's a phrase that sounds like a compliment, but is really a hidden shackle. A real man should be like this. It's repeated over and over, celebrated by society, echoed through movies, social media, especially in relationships where a woman wants control, but doesn't want to be called controlling. Why? Because when you dare to disagree, all she has to do is look at you with disappointment and say, "Oh, so you're not a real man then." And just like that, you begin to doubt yourself. not because you're wrong, but because you've just been manipulated through your own sense of masculine identity. Real love doesn't need tests of manhood. There are familiar phrases like, "A man who doesn't pay is a disgrace." "A real man always yields." "Real men never complain or get tired." "A true man knows how to handle a strong woman." Sound reasonable? Noble even? In truth, they're disguised commands, designed to control your behavior, preying on your shame and fear of being seen as less of a man. They don't help you become a real man. They make you a puppet, dancing to the expectations others impose on you. When the idea of a real man gets hijacked, a real man is not someone who molds himself to every demand just to be seen as masculine. A real man knows who he is and doesn't lose himself to earn someone's approval. So when a woman says, "A real man would do this," stop and ask, is she talking about a noble ideal or her own self-serving mold of what a man should be? If the phrase always points toward paying for everything, staying silent, never pushing back, carrying all the weight while she holds the right to judge, then this isn't love. It's a reversed form of domination. She is the law, you are the tool. Another angle, what if men said the same thing? Imagine if you said, "A real woman should cook, be gentle, and stay quiet when I need space." What would happen? You'd be called sexist, outdated, and someone to be left behind. So why, when some women say similar things, are they seen as standard setting? Double standards aren't just unfair. They make men forget they have the right to choose, to respond, and to be real. A message to the clear-minded man. Next time you hear, "A real man would do this," just smile and ask, who wrote that definition? And why does it always benefit you, but never me? Because you don't prove your manhood through forced behavior. You prove it when you have the strength to say no, to walk away, and to stick to your principles, even when you're told you're less of a man. Masculinity isn't the ability to bend to please. It's the clarity to know who truly respects you, and who's just using you as a piece in their control game. Conclusion. Love doesn't need you to be the perfect man. Real love only needs two people who are real and kind enough not to turn each other into proof of their own worth. You don't need to be a real man in the eyes of the world. You just need to be a man who isn't controlled by definitions he didn't choose. Part 7. If you don't do this, I'll find someone else. When love turns into an ultimatum, nothing kills a relationship faster than a threatening sentence disguised as a need. If you don't do this, I'll find someone else. It sounds like a choice, but in truth, it's a blade held against a man's dignity. A blow that makes you love not from connection, but from fear of loss. And when love is sustained by fear, it's no longer love. Threatening with replacement, the cheapest form of power. Deep down, everyone shares a fear, the fear of not being enough, the fear of being left, the fear of being unwanted. And the woman who uses this line knows that. She puts you in front of two choices. 1. Do what she wants and lose yourself. 2. Refuse and be labeled not good enough. But here's what matters most. You don't have to choose either. You can choose to walk away. Ultimatums never come from mature love. True love doesn't require you to do something just to keep someone. It doesn't give conditions like, do it right and I'll stay, do it wrong and I'm gone. That's what a salesperson says to a customer, not what a lover says to a lover. A woman who truly loves you will say, I don't like this, let's find a way together. Not, do it, or I'll find someone else. Because in that sentence, you are no longer seen as important, but as a role easily replaced. Why do men often fall for this tactic? Because most men are raised to believe that keeping a woman is their responsibility, and if she walks away, it must be their fault. But the truth is, A mature woman won't leave just because you didn't obey her once. And if she's ready to let go simply because you didn't submit, then you were only a temporary option from the very start. A calm response to an ultimatum when you hear, "If you don't do this, I'll find someone else." Don't argue. Don't beg. Don't react emotionally. Just breathe. Look her in the eye and say, "Then you should go find that person." Not to prove you're tough, but to protect the one thing you should never sacrifice, your dignity. A message to the clear-minded man. Love is not a contract full of threats. Someone who truly wants to stay will express their sadness, not use it as emotional blackmail. Someone who truly values you will negotiate with sincerity, not with the idea of replacing you. If she threatens to leave every time you fail to meet an expectation, let her go. Not because you're stubborn, but because you are awake. And an awake man doesn't stay in a relationship where love only exists if he nods in agreement. Conclusion: you don't have to keep someone by doing what your heart doesn't agree with. True love doesn't make you trade your personal freedom for a temporary sense of being needed. A woman who threatens to leave if you don't obey has already emotionally left long ago. The only thing that remains is, are you ready to accept that truth? And when you do, you don't lose love. You reclaim the right to love the right way. Final conclusion: a clear-minded man doesn't need to win in love, only not lose himself. After everything you've read, you might be feeling a little bitter. Because the truth is, love today isn't just emotion, it's a battlefield of psychology, where men often don't even realize they're being tested until they've already lost themselves. Some women aren't evil, they're just emotionally immature. But if you're not clear-minded, lack boundaries, and don't know how to say no, you won't be a lover. You'll become a shadow of yourself. A man doing everything just to be allowed to stay. 7 phrases. 7 chances to choose yourself again. "I don't need a man" means she won't appreciate the role you bring. "My ex was terrible" means you're facing someone who hasn't learned from the past. "You have to endure me" means you'll be tested instead of being loved. "You're weak for thinking that way" means your emotions will be dismissed if they don't align with hers. "Other men want me" means you'll always be compared, not valued. "A real man should" means you're being cast in a role, not allowed to be yourself. And if you don't do this, "I'll find someone else" means this love is a double-edged blade. Obey or be abandoned. 7 phrases, not to scare you, but to help you see where you stand. Not to make you run, but to help you take one step back and ask, is this person truly worthy of my heart, my time, and my devotion? A clear-minded man isn't someone who loves best, but someone who chooses where to love wisely. You don't have to win in love. You only have to not lose yourself, not lose your self-respect, not lose your clarity, not lose the vision of the man you've worked so hard to become. True strength isn't about how much you can endure, it's about knowing when to walk away. Society praises men who are patient, enduring, carrying the weight, but stays silent about those who break quietly, because they stayed too long in the wrong relationships, afraid of being labeled weak. The truth is, there's nothing stronger than a man who walks away from where he's no longer respected. And if you're in a relationship that demands you sacrifice yourself every day, ask yourself, am I being respected? Am I still myself? Am I loving or competing? Am I walking alongside someone or being controlled? If the answers hurt, don't rush to endure. Don't rush to prove. Don't rush to beg to stay. Stand up and walk away, like someone who knows he still has value. Final words for you. The man reading this, you are not alone. You're not crazy for feeling tired, and you are not wrong for choosing yourself over a distorted kind of love. Believe me, there are women out there who are ready to love you exactly as you are, without needing you to play a role. You just have to step out of the wrong place to have a chance to walk into the right one. And when you do that, you don't just protect your heart, you protect your very essence as a man.